Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Youth Day at the Capitol Logistics webinar. My name is Nikki Patnod, and I'm an Educational Support Advocate with Lutheran Social Service. On behalf of the Youth Policy Alliance, or the YPA, your host for this event, I'd like to welcome you again. The 2014 Youth Day at the Capitol will be held on Thursday, April 10th, and we look forward to seeing you there. Joining me today is Mayanne Kapanke. She's the Associate Director for the Mentoring Partnership of Minnesota. Mayanne, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
For the webinar today, we'll look over the core issues that the YPA focuses on, a quick one-on-one on meeting with your legislator, talking points for the day, how to prep your youth effectively, the agenda for the day, and the logistics of how to get around the Capitol.
Great. And so you may be wondering who is all part of this Youth Policy Alliance, because likely you were invited by one of these organizations. We are a coalition of youth-serving organizations that are working together to ensure our state is focused on increasing opportunities and resources for Minnesota youth through comprehensive youth policies. So I'm just going to run through the organizations real quick. We are the Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee, Lutheran Social Services Youth Moving Forward, the Mentoring Partnership of Minnesota, the Minnesota Alliance with Youth, the Minnesota School Age Care Alliance, Minnesota Workforce Council Association, Minnesota Youth Intervention Programs Association, Youth Prize, YWCA of Minneapolis, and the Conflict Resolution Center.
Great. Thanks, Mai. So the Rally for Youth at the Capitol was created so that participants from organizations throughout Minnesota could come together to rally behind these common issues. They include youth homelessness, juvenile justice, mentoring, out-of-school time, workforce development, youth intervention, education, and conflict resolution. At the end of the day, we just want legislators to remember that an investment in young people is an investment in a healthy Minnesota.
Great. So why should we meet with our legislators? Part of this Youth Day is for you to call up your legislators in their offices and ask for a face-to-face meeting, because it is important for them to hear from you as their constituent. So we are asking that you call the legislative offices, set up those meetings, because we want to hold them accountable to many of them say, I support young people. So we want to hold them accountable to the issues and concerns that we have, because our voice is really important. They don't hear from constituents enough. And so when they're in St. Paul, they rarely get meetings from their constituents. So it's really important that we go in with our voice being heard. The relationships are also very important. Part of relationship building with our legislators is making sure that they know who we are and the youth that we serve, because we shouldn't go in building these relationships just when we need something. We want to make sure that if the legislator has any questions about, say, mentoring or youth intervention, that they remember us and they come to us with those questions. And a lot of times they want to highlight programs. So it's important for them to know your program by name so that they can highlight you if there's something that comes up around youth or youth development. So those face-to-face meetings are really kind of a high priority. And then also this gives you and the youth a glimpse into the legislative process. So for all these reasons, it's important for you to set up those meetings for you and your youth to meet with your legislators.
All right, so next we're going to talk a little bit about, do a brief little legislative 101. These tips are meant for people who've never met with a legislator before, and they're really great to share with the young people that you'll be bringing, as many of them have not met with a legislator before. First, introduce yourself. To start off on a good foot, dress respectfully, be punctual and friendly and polite. Thank them for their support of Minnesota youth and for taking the time to meet with you during the day. Talk about why it's so important to invest in youth development. We're also going to want to have talk about their own experience, have the young people share their stories. This is the most important. So the personal stories that resonate the most with legislators are the ones from young people. The legislators hear from lobbyists all day, every day, but a compelling story, personal story from a young person will be what they remember the most. the ask. If you have any specific legislation that your organization is seeking, it's important to ask them for their support. If you don't have any specific legislation, it's really great to just ask, can I count on you to be a champion for youth, or can I count on you to be a champion for XYZ program? Allow the legislator a chance to respond, listen and don't interrupt them, and be understanding that there's a lot of pressure that they're under. If the legislator asks you a question and you don't know the answer to it, tell them that you'll find out and get back to them and make sure that it's done. Follow through is so important. And if they respond to your ask with a no, encourage them to think about it and let them know that you'll be in touch. And then finally, thank them for their time. Let them know that they'll be hearing from you again, and thank them for taking the time to speak with you.
And one thing to note is that we mentioned legislators, but there is a chance that you will meet with not the legislator, but their legislative assistant. These people are really important, and the reason being is that they are generally the ones who take the meetings with constituents, and so they will summarize the meeting with the legislator and say, this is an important piece of legislation that they brought up, we should support this, or, so they're kind of the liaison to the legislator, and they're the ones who know the most about a lot of the legislation because they hear from the lobbying group, the advocacy group, or the constituents. So when we say legislators, it could very possibly be that you're meeting with a legislative assistant. And so when you're going into these meetings, we've been asked time and time again, what should I be talking to them about? Here are some key talking points for you, and this is for anybody who's attending the day. Youth development programs provide a wide range of engaging experiences that we all know help young people. Some of those are, they develop important social and emotional skills. Young people explore their passions through these programs. If they're involved, they're likely to pursue post-secondary education opportunities. And a lot of times, young people connect to their interest to careers through some of these programs. So it's really important for us to be talking about those key talking points because we know these young people want to contribute to their communities, and it's through these youth programs that they do so. One thing that, again, Nikki and I will emphasize is that we want to make sure that we ask these legislative assistants and legislators to be our champions. So one way that will help you do that is that we're going to provide you a button in each youth as well, and then an actual button for the legislator. And the button reads, I am a champion for, and then there's a blank, youth. And so that's where you have an opportunity to write in your city, your town, your program, and then give it to the legislator and say, will you be a champion? And that way, if they're wearing these buttons around the Capitol, it really connects to the event that we're hosting that day and to your programs and to your interests. So we will provide you that opportunity. To increase your impact, as I mentioned before, treat the legislative staff with respect. They're not peons. They're actually liaisons to the legislators. Put the issue in context. That's really important because you don't need to talk about the broader issue. Really boil it down to your community. They are representing your community, so they want to know what is happening in my community. What are the youth doing? How are they engaged in these programs? So really boil it down to your program. Be firm, but of course we want to be considerate. They may not agree with your stance. If that's the case, still be considerate and ask them to reconsider their stance. It's not ever helpful to criticize them or their office. In fact, if there's anything you can commend them for, they don't actually receive a lot of kudos. They hear from constituents when there's a problem or an issue. So if there's something that your legislator is doing very well, it's a great time to say, thank you for doing that. And then also referring to bills and resolutions by numbers. If you're there with an organization and that organization has a bill that they want you to mention and support and ask the legislator to support, use those bill numbers because that's what they usually refer to in terms of bills. And so it's not always helpful just to say, for the youth intervention bill, they will sometimes ask you, or most likely ask you, what is that bill number, so that we can look that up and follow through. And then for you also to follow through, once you're done with your meeting, make sure you send a thank you card. And then, like I said, if they don't agree with your stance, maybe you can reiterate your stance in that letter and thank them again. It's always helpful just to have a follow-up so that they can remember that they had met with your organization.
Okay, so the most, a really important part of the day is meeting with legislators. So to find out who represents you and your young people, you can just go to the state legislative website. There's a URL posted here. And you can just type in the address and it'll tell you what district you live in and who represents you.
Great. So once your group finds out who your elected officials are, there's going to be a number for each legislator. Call that number on the website and then ask for a meeting. Tell them that you'll be there for the Capitol event, so the Youth Day at the Capitol, April 10th. So Youth Day at the Capitol event on April 10th. And let them know that you and your youth would like to meet with the legislator. And again, be sure to mention that you're a constituent, because they will only meet with constituents or folks who are meeting on behalf of their constituents. But they may ask you too, are you a constituent of this legislator? So constituency is very important. But make sure that when you're setting up those meetings that that they know that you're there with the event on April 10th.
Okay, so you know who's representing you, you've set up the meeting. Prepping your youth for the event is really, or for the day is really important. So talk to youth about the Youth Day purpose. Help them see where they might fit into the big picture. Young people might say, I don't want to, why should I go talk to somebody at the Capitol who doesn't know who I am? Why should I talk to my legislator? It's really important that young people can feel like they are a part of the legislative process, especially since they're the direct benefit, they directly benefit from our programs. And I've brought youth to the Capitol many, many times, and it's an incredibly rewarding and empowering experience for young people to share their stories. Talk through the agenda for the day, let them know what's going to be happening. For many youth, this is their first time at the Capitol, and it can be kind of intimidating. With that in mind, there's a lot of really great activities to help kind of make the Capitol the star of the event, or star of the day. Talk to your young people about what to expect when meeting with a legislator. Go through, the key points that we went through earlier, the talking points. But just remind the young people that legislators are just like us. They're from our city, from our town. They've been elected to do a really important job, but they're just our neighbors. And then have the young people practice their stories. Oftentimes meetings can be really short with a legislator. You might have 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And depending on how many youth you bring, it can be really difficult to get through everyone's stories. But they are all important. So help the young people identify the key points of their own stories that they'd be willing to share with their legislators.
All right, so you've set up your meetings, you're there at the event, you've already prepped your youth. Making sure that you facilitate meetings with the legislators. Here are some tips for you in terms of what to do. Make sure you organize your group outside the office. And as the adult, it's important for you to go in to introduce yourself and introduce the youth in your group. And then also at registration, you're going to receive a packet of information that you will want to give to the legislator. It basically has information about our group, why we're there, and the key talking points. And then, of course, introduce the youth and let them share their stories, and then close the meeting by thanking the legislator. And again, thank yous are very important. We are going to provide you an opportunity on site to write a thank you note, and then we as the YPA will deliver those notes to the legislative offices. So we'll have a station set up in the state office building for you to fill out a thank you card, a note card, and then again we'll deliver those notes. And then also one thing that we ask of you is to fill out an evaluation for us. It's really important for us to know how your experience went, and so we can provide a richer experience the next time around. We always use the evaluations to build upon to provide a better experience for you, in future years. So please make time to fill out an evaluation. There will also be computers with a short survey for your youth to fill out. We also want to know from them, was this helpful to you? What did you learn today, so that we can make this experience better for them, because it's really about the young people. So take the time to bring them over to the state office building and room 400N, and have them go on the computers and fill out those surveys, because it's really helpful for us as the organizers.
Before I begin kind of the events for the day, I just want to point out in the top corner, you'll see a sample of the button. This is my button from last year that says I'm a champion, and then there's a space, and I wrote Minnesota Youth because I was there just representing all Minnesota Youth last year. So check-in starts bright and early at 8:30. And then, in the Capitol Rotunda, and then at 10:30 sharp, we will be having a youth-led rally for youth in the Capitol's Rotunda, and we highly encourage you to attend it. Of course, if you have a meeting with a legislator, we don't want you to miss that, but the rally is just really to help encourage the young people and get them fired up for the day. We would love for you and your groups to bring signs to the event and to the rally. We had this really cool group last year that had this sign that they changed the letters back and forth and had really cool, empowering messages. It was a really fun experience. The Capitol does have restrictions on signs. You can't be stuck to any Capitol property. You can't get in the way. You're very safe with having a poster board and some markers and having your young people hold on to those. Let's see. A popular event that we had last year was a day in the life at the Capitol. It's a 30-minute panel discussion where we talk about a typical day at the Capitol, what it's like during the legislative session. They'll hear from Capitol staff, and young people will have the opportunity to ask questions. There's 2 sessions this year. The first one at 11:15 is recommended for teenagers, so 13 and older. And the second session is going to be at 1 o'clock, and that's really recommended for a younger audience. And those both will be held in the state office building in room 400N. And of course, throughout the day, the Rotunda is open. There's Capitol tours throughout the day. It's a really great opportunity for young people to feel, to get a tour of the building and kind of see how it works throughout the day. There's your individual legislative meetings based on your schedule. And then also there is a good possibility there will be some House and Senate floor hearings and committee meetings, which are open to the public. And it's a really cool way for young people to just kind of see what it's like to for their legislator to be in a session. I brought a group of young people to a Senate floor hearing, and we had met with our senator that morning, and he waved up into the gallery at our young people and waved and said hello, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yes, they really like to sit in the gallery and watch the process. So if that's happening, that's always a great thing to engage in. So quickly, some logistics for you as the adult in terms of getting around the Capitol. Here is a URL with the parking and driving directions to the Capitol. I would not encourage you to park at a meter unless you don't plan on being there very long. I know there are a lot of meters along the roads that are closest to the Capitol, but 1, they're expensive, and 2, you don't want to be out there plugging meters consistently. So take advantage of the parking lots. They tend to be a little bit cheaper for a whole day. And so please visit this website that you see on the screen so that you can find out where those parking lots are. There are some rules and regulations, obviously, to being at the Capitol. They ask that we're as quiet as possible, of course, when meetings are going on, especially if you're sitting in the gallery of the Senate or House floor. We don't want to be making too much noise up in the balcony area. There has been issues in the past where youth have defaced some of the art on the walls, and so just a nice reminder for our young people that we don't write on things, we don't write on walls, because they try to trace it back. If that happens, they trace it back to the event, and then we get in a lot of trouble for it. So pretty self-explanatory there. The press and cameras. We do encourage you to bring cameras along to take pictures. It's a great way to remember the day. And then also during the rally, there may be press there. It is an open event and a public event, so the press has the authority to film there if they want to. If they come up to you or your youth and ask if they can interview you, That's completely up to you if you feel comfortable doing that. If your youth feel comfortable, please take that opportunity. If not, just say that you're not interested and they'll find somebody else to interview. Places to eat, there are restaurants around the Capitol that you can go to for lunch, or there's a cafeteria in the Capitol building, but we generally encourage groups to bring your own lunch. There are places to sit to eat your lunch, and it just tends to be easier, especially if the weather is cold or snowy. It's just nice to be able to stay put and eat. So we encourage you to bring a lunch with you. Snacks, we will provide a light snack. Generally, it's a pack of crackers with cheese or peanut butter or something like that. But it won't be enough for the youth all day, so make sure you bring your lunch. And then as far as weather goes, this event is happening on April 10th. We hope, we hope that the weather will cooperate and that it'll be a little bit warmer than it is today and has been. So we will have this event, rain, shine, snow. However, if for some reason it is snowing and it's not easy to get to the Capitol, if it's dangerous, the roads are not great, please don't come. We want to make sure that you and your youth are safe, so we'll leave that up to you, but we will be hosting this event despite weather conditions, unless it's really, really bad, but we don't anticipate that happening in April, so we'll just leave that at that. All right, so more information.
Okay. Yeah, if you're looking for more information about the day, you can see we do have a Youth Day website. It is a Google site, and it's the quickest and easiest way to get there besides typing in this URL is just going to Google and in the search engine typing in Youth Day at the Capitol, Minnesota, and our website pops up right there. Of course, follow us on Twitter if your organization or your young people are on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is YPAMN, and we'll be live tweeting throughout the day using the hashtag YouthDay2014. We encourage you to tweet your pictures, your legislative meeting experiences. I had a really great time the past couple of years live tweeting throughout the day with different organizations and young people who were there. And then this last link or URL here is a motivating video that we have found that you can show your youth to kind of get them empowered in the day.
Great. And so finally, just in closing, if you have any questions, concerns, you need to follow up with any one of us, here are the list of organizations, again, that are part of the Youth Policy Alliance. Please call us, email us. We're happy to help walk you through any part of the process if you need some help. But connect with the organization that you're close to or that invited you to the event, and we can get all your questions and concerns answered. So with that, we hope this information was helpful, and again, we are excited to meet you all, to have you engage in the legislative process, and we really look forward to seeing you on April 10th. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.